Well, happy Lent. Lent is traditionally a time when, of course, many people give something up, maybe meat or alcohol, chocolate, or a few minutes a day to do some extra spiritual reading or meditating. And this can be good for several different reasons, really. First, what we give up is often really good for our health and our spiritual temples, because that's what our bodies are. And second, giving up something can also serve as a regular reminder to us throughout the day of our spiritual commitment. Each time we don't indulge in whatever that is that we've chosen to give up, it's like kind of a wake-up call to the fact that we are spiritually committed. It's sort of like setting your watch or your cell phone to go off, ding, once an hour to remind you to just get still and pray or meditate for a few seconds. Around Unity Centers, one of the favorite things we give up for Lent is negativity. In fact, L-E-N-T, Lent, often means let's end negativity today. One of the greatest benefits of looking into and giving up negativity is that it removes a major block between us and our ability to love, the major teaching of all religions. And this has been the subject of Katrina's and my truth lessons for the month of Valentine's, love. Now, last Sunday, we talked about several aspects of love. For example, how often love is a choice, because we may not feel it all the time, but we can certainly do the right thing. We also talked about love as compassion for ourselves as well as for others. Compassion is the ability to deeply understand another person's experience. It's being able to see through another person's eyes, to see their point of view. And that way, we are soul to soul with that person. Now, it does not mean, compassion does not mean feeling sorry for someone else or pitying someone. That is projecting powerlessness on that person. It is seeing someone as a victim. That is not what compassion is. It's really the ability to see through their eyes. Now, today's lesson is about another aspect of love, and its twin, forgiveness. On one level, it's about being beyond the need to forgive, knowing that nothing that anyone ever does is really personal, so there's really nothing to forgive them personally for. People just act out their personal stuff sometimes, and we're kind of in their sphere or maybe in their way, and we get triggered due to our own stuff. On another level, today's lesson is about how suffering can lead to our good. Even if it's unnecessary suffering, we get triggered by something they do. It has really nothing to do with us. We're just in the way. But if we can use the suffering to grow, if we don't get bogged down in revenge or some other form of negativity. Thus, what could be labeled as suffering can be a great opportunity to grow and develop. For one thing, to develop compassion for another person. When we walk through the valley of the shadow of death, as it says in Psalms 23:4, we can more readily have compassion for others who are doing the same thing, walking through their valley of death. Excuse me. Another aspect of love that we've been touching on during the month of February that is certainly inherent in our lesson today is that of forgiveness of ourselves and others. This doesn't mean we might not wish the circumstances or the person to be acting different, but unconditionally accepting ourselves and others is something else entirely. It means we accept what is the here and now. In fact, resistance and judgment toward ourselves or other crystallizes our lives into a very rigid state that totally prevents the natural flow of life and love. This is where the idea of let go and let God comes in. The etymology of the word forgive is to give over, to give away. We forgive when we give over our personal beliefs and feelings to the divine presence within. So, let me tell you a story. It's about Joseph, one of the 12 sons of Jacob, who was the son of Isaac, whose father was Abraham. You might best know Abraham's great-grandson Joseph as the lead character from the tour de force Broadway play, Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. How many of you all saw that, by the way? Okay, well, I'll try to tell enough details in the story so you all get it. Joseph had 11 brothers, whom he had every right to hate on a worldly level. These brothers detested Joseph because they felt like their father favored him. Does that sound a little familiar? Because Joseph was his child by Rachel, his most beloved wife. Joseph's brothers were just plain jealous. Not only did their father favor Joseph, they felt, but he had given Joseph this beautiful multicolored coat, which Joseph proudly wore, which enraged his brothers. And in addition to Joseph being his father's favorite, Joseph had this incredible dream in which he, in the future, reigned over his brothers. And his brothers feared that this dream would come true. So they decided to kill Joseph. They threw him first into a well. That didn't work. So they pulled him out and sold him into slavery, telling their father that wild animals had devoured their brother Joseph. Joseph ended up as a slave in Egypt, finally working for an official, Egyptian official who greatly appreciated him, and finally entrusted his whole household to Joseph. He was so capable. All went very well until the official's wife took a liking to Joseph. Being upstanding and trustworthy, though, Joseph turned her down, and in revenge, she accused Joseph of approaching her, which resulted in poor Joseph's being thrown into an Egyptian jail by her husband, his former employer. Stranger in a strange land, hopelessly abandoned and forgotten by his family and his master through absolutely no fault of his own. Think about that a minute. Wouldn't those circumstances cause negativity, hatred, and revenge in most people today? What do you think? Yep, I do too, but not Joseph. He just kept on keeping on. I kept reading and rereading the story. It just didn't register. But lest the story be just a simple morality play about not being vengeful, let's look deeper. While in jail, Joseph continued to have dreams, which really did come true. And the other prisoners took note of that and his ability. And a couple of years later, when one of the released prisoners needed to find a dream interpreter for the great Pharaoh of Egypt, he remembered Joseph's incredible dream interpretations in jail. He told Pharaoh about Joseph, and Pharaoh released him from prison and soon realized how talented he was as a dream interpreter. Joseph predicted that one of Pharaoh's dreams meant that Egypt would enjoy 7 years of prosperity, but followed by 7 years of famine. Because of this prediction, Pharaoh was able to stockpile grain during all those 7 years of plenty and thus thrive during the 7 years of famine and misery. Other countries endured great suffering and starvation during these years of famine. Pharaoh was so grateful to Joseph that he eventually put Joseph in charge of his entire kingdom and all the grain and food that was to be distributed and sold to people from other countries who desperately needed it. So Joseph ended up being second in command in Egypt, second only to Pharaoh. Now, as time went on, Egypt's neighboring kingdoms were starving, and Joseph's father, Jacob, sent 10 of Joseph's brothers to Egypt to buy grain for the family. Since Joseph was in charge of Pharaoh's kingdom, he was the one who met and dealt with his brothers. They didn't recognize him, though, because Joseph was wearing all these fine clothes and jewels, and of course they assumed that Joseph was just a slave toiling away in the fields somewhere. Now, fast forward. I'd love to tell you the whole story, but I had to cut out about 23 minutes of this. I figured you'd all leave. All right, fast forward to Joseph's family's next trip to Egypt in search of food. Remember, this famine lasted 7 years. Joseph finally revealed himself on that trip to his brothers. He showed them who he was. Imagine their shock and surprise. They were terrified, for one thing. First of all, their father realized that Joseph's brothers had sold him into slavery and then lied about his being attacked and killed by wild animals. Secondly, the brothers feared Joseph himself, who was a powerful Egyptian at the time and had every right to be vengeful and could probably have done whatever he wanted to them. Joseph, however, assured his brothers that they had no need to fear. Joseph was happy to be reunited with his family and his father, who was with them this time. Joseph assured them that he would take care of them, which he did. Because of Pharaoh's appreciation, affection, and respect for Joseph, he gave his family the best of everything, including the very best plots of land to settle on. Now, Joseph's father, well over 100 by that time, had been renamed Israel by God, and he was beyond joyful at finding his precious son, Joseph, love child of his beloved Rachel. And he said that at last he could die. His life was complete. He knew that his son Joseph was still alive and prospering, and that his family would now be cared for. Now, on the surface, this is a wonderful tale of jealousy and revenge on the part of Joseph's brothers. They just couldn't stand the fact that Joseph was so loved by their father and that he pranced around, as they called it, in this beautiful multicolored coat that their father had given him. Not to mention Joseph's dream about one day reigning over his brothers, which of course turned out to be true. The story is also about Joseph, who, despite being hated by his brothers and sold into slavery and unjustly thrown into prison, felt no negativity or revenge. He couldn't be bothered. He was too busy manifesting abundance in his life. He even cared for his brothers in their time of need. Now, Joseph could have been so eaten up by hatred, revenge, and negativity that he wouldn't have even been able to function. But he thrived, helped others interpret their dreams, and in the end became Egypt's second most powerful man. When we let hatred, revenge, judgment, and negativity get a hold of our lives, we often don't have the energy or zeal it takes to thrive in our lives. Joseph just glided right through his tribulations. He focused on life's possibilities. He danced with the seeming chaos and converted it all into success. Joseph didn't let abandonment, slavery, or prison affect his equanimity. As a result, he thrived. Now let's look deeper at the story, lest it be just a simple morality play. Joseph, like every character and place in the Bible, is a state of consciousness, our consciousness, which is unfolding and developing all the time. Charles Fillmore's Metaphysical Bible Dictionary says the meaning of Joseph is, and I quote, Jehovah shall increase. He shall increase progressively. That is, of course, Jehovah or God within each of us. Joseph is our own ideal state of spiritual consciousness. That part of us is pure spirit, the embodiment of spiritual substance and wisdom. There are other qualities in our consciousness too, though, and they are represented by Joseph's brothers and the coat of many colors given to him by his father. Our parents and environment usually do pass on these things to us, societal norms, what I love to call mass psychosis. This coat and his brothers represent undesirable qualities in Joseph's thoughts. These lower parts of Joseph, his brothers, do him in. They threw him in a well, they sold him into slavery. The bad things that befall him represent the bad things that often happen to us, not a judgment or punishment from God, just natural cause and effect, karma, if you will. It's what happens to us when we harbor contradictory thoughts within us. These conflicting thoughts represented by his brothers are, for example, Brother Reuben, who represents instability, Brother Simeon and Levi, who represent cruelty and anger, Issachar, which means a strong ass, Benjamin, which means wolf in the most pejorative term, and Naphtali, which means hind let loose. Now, I'm not sure what that really is, but it sounded really good. These qualities in Joseph are the parts of him that sell him out. They sell him into slavery, and they send him to Egypt as a slave. Now, Egypt, remember, every place and person in the Bible represents a part of our consciousness. Egypt represents a state of darkness, materiality, sense consciousness in our mortal mind. Remember that not only characters in the Bible, but the places are symbolic of our consciousness as a way for us to have an image in our minds to grasp so that when we progress, we can latch on to something. When we allow these lower states of consciousness to abide in us, like hatred and judgment and negativity, they throw us into an Egypt state, a lower sense, dark state of being. These lower states of our consciousness often do away with the higher states. We can't serve two masters. The Bible says that over and over again. Joseph's coat of many colors represents his mixed states of consciousness, which can't abide together. The lower is kind of like a cancer cell, which eventually wreaks havoc on the whole body. That's why we have to be so present to what is really going on in us all the time through meditation, prayer, self-observation. It's too easy to blame others in the outer world and ignore our negativity and lack of love. They made me hate them by their actions, or this situation is enough to make anybody negative. The color of Joseph's coat says it all. There are many colors representing many different aspects of himself. Now, what is fascinating is that before Joseph's brothers threw him into the well, he was stripped of his coat of many colors. And his being sold into slavery meant that he was free of his brothers. It looked like from the outside that's something bad. He's being sold into slavery. But in metaphysical terms, he was then free of this inner negativity. Thus, what seemed in worldly terms as a bad thing was really the start of Joseph's evolution. which will lead to his being able to manifest as a great man, the second in command in Egypt that he became. And remember that it was his father who gave him the coat. We inherit these tendencies from life, from our families, from our friends. But Joseph was stripped of his multicolored coat. He was purged of these contradictions, and this seemingly bad thing catapulted him into being his fully realized self. Remember, things are always in divine order. We just sometimes can't see that at certain places in our development. Joseph's losing his coat and his family can, in a worldly sense, of course, seem bad, but in reality, it provided the opportunity for him to grow and manifest his true self and abundance. Remember that Joseph is our ideal state of spiritual consciousness. That real Joseph part of our consciousness will ultimately free us from whatever holds us in bondage, whatever imprisons us and keeps us from manifesting our full potential, if we'll just let it. The timing, of course, is up to us. The real epiphany is when you realize that the whole journey was really God's journey, as are all journeys. As Joseph said to his brothers, "It was not you who sent me hither," meaning to Egypt, "but God." Joseph understood that. He understood that it was all in divine order ultimately, and always had been. This is a revolutionary thought to most people who haven't studied The Course of Miracles or Charles Fillmore, Unity's co-founder. We often believe that our evil thoughts and deeds have brought us punishment, slavery, or bondage, when in reality, these things were the very events which made freedom possible for us. Joseph was sold into slavery and imprisoned, but it all led to his getting free of his conflicts, symbolized by his coat of many colors and his brothers, so that he could go on to be the powerful person he was and save his family, symbol of his completed rise in consciousness. The real lesson of this story is that the moment we no longer see evil in others or in circumstances, as soon as we recognize that there is only one power and one presence in the universe, everything is turned around and we start seeing the divine order in everything, and our lives start manifesting in harmony and abundance. If we have God and one atom of something else in us, we are harboring the idea that there is more than one power and one presence in the universe. And those lower thoughts will sell us into slavery or darkness or our Egypt. There can't be God and evil in the world, despite the illusion to the contrary. This illusion, or Maya, must be reinterpreted and the truth seen. As soon as we rise to that understanding, our full Joseph power will shift into effect. Now, in reality, of course, there is no Egypt. There are no dark places, except in our consciousness. But we can entertain the illusion of them, and that's where the chaos starts in our lives. And in the story, remember that Joseph does not succumb to hatred, and that is what allowed the good to endure. And that's what allowed the good ending, as it always does. Joseph saved his family by seeing them, his evil thoughts, as whole. This is how Jesus healed the sick. He didn't see them as ill in need of being healed. Jesus didn't accept anything less than the wholeness that they were. Healing the sick is a human concept of what Jesus did. He saw who others deemed as sick as whole, and he simply asked them to rise and claim their wholeness, and they were healed. The point is that there isn't anything but God, the good, in life, regardless of what it may seem like due to our limited vision sometimes. The things we interpret as bad or sinful, even slavery and prison, are in reality just a misunderstanding of the ultimate divine order of things. And I'm not talking about things that maybe on the physical plane don't need improving or changing, but the overall order is divine. So Joseph's spiritual vision and harboring no evil kept him free. It set his family, his thoughts, metaphysically speaking, free. In fact, he said to his brothers, "Be not grieved or angry with yourselves that you sold me, for it was God that sent me before you to save you. God hath made me father to Pharaoh and all his kingdom." Joseph understood why all that had happened. And this is often the purification process for us. In the worldly interpretation, we go down into the pits, like they threw Joseph into the pits. But this is in truth a way of purification and understanding until at last we are Pharaoh's father, that is supreme over our belief in the material, worldly consciousness that Egypt symbolizes. We then have complete control of ourselves and our consciousness. We dispel all belief in error. We reign over our Egypt consciousness, dispelling all belief in darkness. At that point, we will have truly verified that there is only one power and one presence in the universe. The illusion of anything or anyone out there as evil or to be feared is dispersed, and we are free as soon as we disperse that thought. At that point, when we recognize the truth of the oneness of all life and the one presence and one power of the universe, the good, we are then, as Joseph was, able to access the 12 powers within us that Charles Fillmore talked about. That is the symbol of Joseph's success. The reality is that there really is never anything holding us back, but we often need to develop our consciousness to understand that. Life often has a way of doing that for us, as I'm sure we all know, as in the story of Joseph. But we must stay awake, as it says so many times in the Bible. Wake up, wake up. So we see the opportunities in whatever form they come, even though sometimes we feel like we're suffering. Remember, the Chinese character for disaster also means opportunity. And so it was for Joseph. And so it is for all of us in the transformation of our consciousness, this birth of a greater reality that we're all working for. Our resurrection, as the season of Lent prepares us for at Easter. There is only one presence and one power in the universe, and that is God the good, which is always working in divine order. And so it is, no matter what it temporarily may seem like, all is always in divine order. So practice your Joseph consciousness this week. Try to see through the illusion that there is evil out there. Thank you.